I was given a referral the other day. I don't originate loans today. If I get one, I hand it off to somebody. But this young man was referred to me by my uncle, and I was in the airport, actually. I was coming back from a work meeting, and so I had a quick conversation with him, but I can't help myself. I immediately go into like loan officer mode, and even though I'm at the airport, I'm like, oh, he's self-employed, and he owns a business. He does, swimming pools and stuff like that. So then, I'm immediately going, okay, so, how's your income structured? What did your tax returns look like the last couple of years? And now do you pay yourself with a W-2 then as well? Or, well, no, you don't. Okay. And what does your wife do? Well, my wife works for me. Okay. So does she get a W-2 then? Or is she just working with you, as part of the business? Oh, no, she actually gets a W-2 and a pay stub. And, and so these little things that, just in a brief conversation, I didn't have my yellow notepad, but I did have a notepad and was taking down some notes. And so when I handed that off to a loan officer, I was like, here's all the things that we're going to need. And it was a 10-minute conversation with a borrower. And that seems like so simple. Like you would think that everyone's doing that. I would think everyone's doing that. But I know, in fact, that they're not, because I don't think a lot of loan officers were trained to slow down and have that conversation. They might feel uncomfortable asking a borrower some of these questions. And I'll tell you, for me, it's very natural because I did it for so long. I can't not do it. I'm like, I don't know if I can help you. It's not like I need to see your application that you fill out online for me to tell you if I can help you. I mean, ultimately, yes, I need that. But I know what it's going to take to put a loan file together. I know what stable income looks like. And we're going to talk about variable income, questions you might ask around that. But, I know what stable income needs to look like. I know what documented assets. Matter of fact, I asked him about his assets. I was like, oh, so how much money do you want to put down? Oh, I want to put like $80,000 down. Oh, is that in your checking account or is that money that's in your business? Oh, well, it's in my business right now. Okay, so we're going to need to talk about that, right? Mm-hmm. And those are the kind of things where if a borrower just says, hey, I'm putting 20% down, I got 80 grand, you might think no big deal, but it's like, where's the money at today? And if you're a seasoned loan officer and you're hearing me say this, you're like, Tony, duh.
101 stuff,
I am
right?
telling you right now, there's a lot of loan officers that don't take the time to slow down and have this conversation. And I don't blame them if they weren't ever taught to do this.
Right.
It's so important that you really have in your mind exactly how you're going to put this borrower's file together before it ever gets to your team, before it ever gets to processing. Loan officer needs to know that. And it's not as simple as just letting them fill out their application online.
And sometimes you have to really look at it from a disinterested party because you get passionate. You've made this relationship with this borrower because you've heard everything. They're excited about their house. And now you don't see it as clearly as somebody else does, right? I can look at something that jumps off the page at me and somebody's going, why would you ask that? I'm like, well, what, you didn't see that large deposit on the bank statement? And you might say, oh, it's because they sold a car. Well, that's great, but we need to document that. Right. And so it's sometimes that's where your team will help you, right? They're the ones that are reviewing it. And then they're going to go back to you and say, hey, here's what we might need because I see this. And that's where you have to, that communication's huge with your team to be able to, review it and then go back to your borrower and get it addressed before we have a problem at the end. And
even occupancy things, right? Like a borrower's like, oh, I'm just going to buy this house. I really love the house right down the street from me. And it's like, okay, well, let's talk about this. It's not as simple as just, is it going to be owner occupied? Are you trying to acquire a rental? What are you doing with your departing residents? When a borrower tells you a story, like you said, you get emotionally interested in wanting to help them. And sometimes you need to zoom back out and say, how does this look? Because keep in mind, an underwriter, they don't even see they just see it on paper. They don't even see it on paper. They just see it on a computer screen in a folder, in the LOS system. And it's like, it needs to tell the story as well as anything else. They don't have the benefit of a conversation with the borrower, right? Who's telling you what's going on. So I think that's a big part of it, because nothing worse, in my opinion, than, and I feel bad for borrowers and real estate agents who has this happen to them. But, the loan officer, if you're listening to this, you got to slow down. You got to take the time. You have to have built that loan file from beginning to end in your own head. You know how it's going to work. You know how you're going to document all of the, the 4 C's as we talk about, right? The credit, the capacity, collateral. How are these things all going to fit together in order to have an approvable transaction before you ever hit go, before you even send them to the internet to fill out their application. In my opinion, when a borrower goes and fills out their loan application online, it's really just there to validate the things that they've already told me in person. You know,
Exactly.
And I think it's a lost art, and it causes a lot of problems, which is why I bring it up.